Did you know that according to many historians, the geographical discoveries of Westerners, such as the discovery of the American continent and their colonial activities, resulted from the continuation of the Crusades? You will indeed be shocked if you know that the battles of Christians against Muslims, as well as the wars of Europeans and Western countries against the Arab world and Muslims, and in general, the colonial behavior of Westerners towards Muslims, in recent centuries are the continuation of the Crusades. What was the origin of the Crusades? And what were the results of these wars? We will continue to investigate this issue. Stay with us. Hello there, lovely friends. I hope you're doing well. Please subscribe to our channel before watching this video, and click the bell button to be notified of new videos. Please like and share this video to show your support. Crusades are wars in which Christians fought with Muslims for about 400 years, from the 11th to the 15th centuries. During several periods, these wars were mainly in Jerusalem and the Middle East. Christian participants in this war, by order of Pope Urban II, sewed a sign of the cross on the right shoulder of their clothes or armor. For this reason, these wars became known as the Crusades. The Crusades took place a total of 8 times. Except for the first war, the Christians were defeated by the Muslims in the rest of the battles. Usually, contemporary historians divide the Crusades into 8 significant wars and several minor wars. Some believe that the flow of events was connected, and there was no precise distinction between the wars. Crusaders were Catholic Christians who fought with Muslims and Orthodox Christians in the territory of Eastern Rome, and sometimes with Mongols and Christian Carthage. Although at intervals, Orthodox Christians united with Catholics and fought against Muslims. At first, the Crusaders started fighting to recapture Jerusalem and the Holy Land from the hands of Muslims, and establish Crusader governments in different parts of Palestine. The Crusaders had temporary successes initially, but they were finally expelled from the Holy Lands. However, the Crusades had significant political, economic, and social effects on Europe. The Crusades started in 1095 AD, but their consequences have had a substantial impact on the lives of the world until today. Many Western and contemporary Muslim historians have given religious color to these wars, and considered religious prejudice the main reason for the outbreak of wars, while the performance of the Church, the words of the popes, and the behavior of the invaders clearly show that the religious factor, with all its importance in these wars, was more of a deceptive cover to achieve material and economic goals and nationalization. The political situation of the Islamic world was also not without influence in creating the grounds of the Crusades. Many historians believe that one of the most important causes of the war was the Seljuk Turks who, after they conquered Syria and Jerusalem, at the end of the 5th century they mistreated and insulted the Christian residents of Beit al-Maqdis and the pilgrims of the Shrine of Jesus. They charged them and even confiscated some of the regional churches and shrines. This became expensive for the church authorities, and led to the start of the war. Thus, the violence of the Seljuks was one of the reasons for the formation of the Crusades. Some historians believe that the most important political factor in the occurrence of the Crusades should be considered the weakness and decline of the Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium. After the severe defeat of the Byzantines in the famous Battle of Malazgirt against the Seljuks, which caused large parts of Asia Minor to be captured by the Seljuks were placed in the vicinity of Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. The Eastern Roman Emperor sent ambassadors to Pope Urban II and asked him for help to remove the danger from his capital, as well as to recover the lands they had captured. The Pope agreed to this request. Because of the support of the Eastern Roman Emperor, The Catholic Church was united with the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the power and influence of the Pope in Europe increased. With the all-around support of the Pope from Eastern Rome, different classes and groups of Western European societies also participated in these wars with their motivation. Emirs and princes in the hope of acquiring high positions and ruling in the new land, knights because their only means of livelihood was war and adventure, and the defense of nobles and nobles, the ordinary people of Europe, who formed the weak classes of society. And they had a pathetic situation, hoping to gain wealth and get rid of the slavery and oppression of the rich and criminals to escape from justice. The main motivations of different classes of Western European society to participate in the Crusades. Undoubtedly, one of the most critical factors of the war was the dire economic and social situation in Western Europe. The people of Western Europe suffered from droughts, storms, floods, famines, infectious diseases, etc. During that period, this severe crisis in the shadow of the feudal system caused a conflict between the emirs and nobles over the acquisition of each other's lands, and the workers, farmers, and slaves paid for it. In such a situation, the French people accepted the Pope's invitation, and the Church's preachers to participate in the Holy War, in the hope of their promises for a better life. In 1095, Pope Urban II forced all European Christians to rise against the Muslim Turks and occupy the city of Jerusalem, Holy House, located in Palestine. The same year, a large army was prepared and set off for the First Crusade. Many crusaders lost their lives during the dangerous journey from Europe to the Middle East. Those who survived captured the temple in 1099 AD. 6 more crusades took place between 1099 AD and 1250 AD, but the Crusaders did not succeed in any of them. The Eighth Religious War, which was one of the last attempts to recapture Jerusalem, was due to the lack of unity, the battle over the interests of Christians in the region, and the absence of the Pope and clergy at the head of the wars, as well as the presence of several non-religious people in the 1280s, led to failure. During this time, the Christians lost their last stronghold in Jerusalem. After the Church lost Jerusalem, it concentrated on organizing several minor crusades with limited objectives, during which it could expel the Muslims from certain conquered areas, or to conquer non-Christian lands. But they did not achieve much success until the 16th century, when any support for the Crusades disappeared, and was accompanied by the occurrence of the Protestant movement, and the decline of papal authority. Since the registration of the number of soldiers at that time was not accurate or was lost over time, the number of people killed during the Crusades is unknown. Estimates suggest that between 1 and 3 million people died in the Crusades. But what mutual effects did the Crusades have on Muslims and Christians involved? Historians believe that the Crusades caused many losses. One of the most significant damage was inciting the feeling of hatred and enmity between Muslims and Christians, which remains until today. Other adverse effects of these wars on the Islamic world can also be mentioned in various cases, among them, racial mixing and intermingling, claiming to have seen prophets or divine saints, superstition, the occurrence of various social corruptions such as sensuality, and all kinds of anomalies by the warring armies, the creation of severe class differences between the rich and the poor in the society. One of the problems during these wars was the lack of hygiene, which caused the spread of leprosy. The impact of the Crusades on Europeans was entirely positive in various fields, including the adjustment of power in Europe, the loss of the influence of many nobles and nobles, and the sharp decrease in the power of the feudal system in Western Europe, the weakening of the power and influence of the Church and the popes and the people's mistrust of them, and the emergence of modernism and Western ideas, and the launch of the scientific and free-thinking movement against the Church's views, and, as a result, the emergence of critical thinkers of the traditional church. During these exchanges, Europeans first got acquainted with various tools such as paper, gunpowder, and compasses and how to make and use them. The use of oriental musical instruments, such as harpsichord or oud, also became common during this period. Some foods, including sugar, spices and black pepper, poppy seeds, garlic, dried fruits, and lemons, were brought to Europe by Muslims. The habit of bathing, using local soaps and perfumes, and hairstyling of Muslims also influenced the Europeans. Crusaders later, following the Muslims, would make their hair long and curly and dye it with henna. The beautiful fabrics woven in Islamic lands were widely welcomed in medieval Europe. Also, the Crusaders took Muslim carpets and colored rugs with them to their country. Crusaders spread the knowledge of Islamic civilization in Northern Europe. The new sciences that the Crusaders brought from the East to Europe changed everything from navigation and the physics of light to accounting and architecture. It should be mentioned that all Muslim books were burned in the First Crusade, but in the Second Crusade, the remaining books were collected and brought to Europe by order of the Church or the king. As a result, Iranian Islamic sciences reached Europe and were widely used. Also, many words and terms from Islamic civilization were adopted by Europeans. Among the writings of Muslims, books on philosophy, medicine, pharmacy, astronomy, geography, and mathematics were the most important. During this period, the establishment of prominent universities in Europe flourished due to familiarity with Islamic philosophy, culture, and civilization. A number of these books, including the works of Abu Ali Sina and Farabi, were translated into Latin, which was the scientific and religious language of Europe in the Middle Ages. The medical advances of Muslims in the knowledge of plants and the production of medicine had attracted the attention of Europeans. Although the Crusades lasted 200 years, in practice, more than 3/4 of it went to peace. During these long intervals of peace, Europeans found enough opportunity to learn about Islamic civilization and benefit from its economic prosperity. In addition to the Palestine region, which was the place where the European Crusaders came into contact with the Muslims, the ports of Egypt and the Levant, as well as the Muslim cities of Spain, had become the place for the Europeans to get to know the Islamic civilization. European merchants played the leading role in this relationship. Some Christian priests also paid attention to the achievements of Islamic civilization, away from the eyes of the church authorities, and due to scientific motives. The Crusades became a turning point in the life of Europeans and, generally, in the history of civilization. During the Crusades, the Europeans got acquainted with the flourishing Islamic society, and in addition to material trophies, they brought a precious spiritual treasure of Islamic culture. As a result of the Crusades, the essential European ports, the Mediterranean Sea, started a period of prosperity, and a favorable ground was provided for the Renaissance.
Thank you for watching this video all up to the end. If you enjoyed it, please like it and subscribe to receive notifications of new videos by clicking the subscribe button and the bell next to it.